Now that you've had an opportunity to get acquainted with some of the background surrounding HTML5 media, we'll start off by digging into some of the demos. Now this one here is just some of the basics. I'll show you the basic media elements and some of the attributes that we can apply to them and how you apply sources to them. So this is the page here where I've got a video and an audio element on the page. And even if I reload here, you'll notice something perhaps kind of curious. As I hover over this, there's no controls that pop up, and when I go to the audio, nothing shows up at all. So let's go into the code and we'll take a look at what's going on. So I have a video element declared and I have an audio element declared. And this is just the plain vanilla element. There's no attributes applied to it. On top of that, each one of them has their own source. And if you remember from the discussion about the different file formats, I've got MP4, OGG Theora, and WebM for my video, MP3, OGG Vorbis, and WAVE for audio. And I've got a comment here that shows that we want to serve this first for the iPad, because at the moment, the iPad has a bug that we want to be able to account for. If we serve up the MP4 first, everything should work correctly. And I'm sure that's an issue with the iPad that'll be sorted out sooner than later. But if you notice to begin with, all I have is the element here, and I haven't declared any attributes. I haven't customized it in any way. And what happens is when you have just a plain vanilla element, you end up with something like what we have here on the page, and that's no controls being rendered for the elements at all. So I can change that by very simply adding the controls attribute to the players. Now, something I want you to keep in mind is that HTML5 is not an extension of XHTML. And what I mean by that is the fact that attributes are not required to have values. So I could come in here and say controls equals true, or perhaps controls equals controls. And now when I refresh the page, I have controls for each one of my media elements. And you'll notice with the audio, I just said controls, and with the video, I said controls equal controls, which is basically the rule that you'd have within XHTML. So it'll support that rule, that kind of format that you might be used to through XHTML, but it's not required. This is perfectly valid markup, simply to say video and then declare the controls on there, and that's where you have the controls. So refresh the page one more time, and then you get an opportunity to see and hear what's going on here. So that's the video, and for audio,
The Polymorphic Podcast.
And so what's happening underneath the hood is that the browser is figuring out which one of the source items that it needs to use in order to serve to the player, and the correct codec is used to decode the media and then it's played back to the user.